Are you amazed that your words that you spoke to John Heyman are resonating so much right now around the baseball world?
Well, again, I'm kind of the messenger of what doctors have to say, and I certainly understand that for teams and fans, obviously when you have medical opinions that limit what a player can customarily do, it's probably not going to be received well by the fan base. But going into this, both parties knew that there were limits, and those limits had to be defined by doctors as the season unfolded.
Scott, was it your impression at the beginning of the season that the Mets were on board with him not pitching over 180 innings?
Well, remember that I don't think any of us knew. I raised, when we had the discussion about limits, and both parties agreed there need to be limits, the limits that we were speaking of had to come for this individual case from the surgeons. And what I did was I hadn't heard anything, and Matt reached 140 innings, so I reached out to Sandy, and I said, we should have a talk with the surgeons and have a talk with your team doctor, and he agreed, and so I had the conversations with Dr. Andrews who performed that surgery, and he basically gave us, we were absolutely elated about the fact that Matt has had no complications and has pitched at all-star levels and has done what he's done this season. It's been fantastic. And then Dr. Andrews looked at the situation and reported back to us that he should not exceed the highest amount of innings that he had pitched, in his career, which was with 178. And so then I checked with another foremost Tommy John surgeon in the nation, Dr. Elatrage, and he said he was more conservative, being around 165. And I just informed the Mets of that information and spoke with their team physician. One of my medical directors did for my staff, spoke with their team physician, and he said that we should follow the surgeon's advice.
Here's what I don't get, Scott. If there is an innings limit, and we went into the season thinking this is a special talent that had Tommy John surgery, why is it that Matt fought every time to come out of a game? Why is it that Matt fought the opportunity for the Mets to go into a six-man rotation? Why? Why was he fighting it, Scott?
Because I think Matt is a great competitor. I went through this with Strasburg and a lot of other pitchers who have maladies. They always fight it. It's the competitive nature. And they're out there competing. They're in the heat of the moment. It's just the nature of who they are as competitors, and then they kind of get out of the heat of the battle, and they look back and think about it. And I think that, and then I put them on the phone with the doctors, and I certainly want the player informed. So in his decision making, he's doing what he knows is what he really wants to do. Is he wants to do his best for his team in the moment, and he also wants to do the best for his team in the long term. And so how they manage that and what they do with that, the best I can do is, and we all know from our playing days that when we get in the heat of the battle, that we're not going to be as logical as we should be.
Now, it's not necessarily shutting him down for the postseason. It's not exceeding 180 innings. So when you were informed that he had about 40 innings left, and I'm sure you want to see your client pitch in the postseason, that'd be great for you, that'd be great for him, that there couldn't have been something worked out to try to scale things back so that maybe some of those innings could have happened after the regular season was over?
Donna, these questions about what the club's management decisions were and what they do and how they do it, that province is not mine. My job, and again, I took the initiative to make the call, to begin the process, to collect the information so that it gave us an opportunity well in advance of the playoffs to really, set up whatever the team desired the plan to be. And whether they should have done that sooner, I don't know. Whether or not how they do it, all I know is that when I saw what was going on and we reached 140 innings, I wanted to make sure my client was talking to his doctors, and I also wanted to make sure the team was aware of what the message from the doctor was. And so that's really my involvement in this.
We're talking with Scott Boras, the agent for many, many stars in baseball, but we're talking about his representing Matt Harvey. Scott, I have two eventualities to ask you about. Number one, What if Matt Harvey calls you up and says, hey, Scott, stand down. You work for me. I'm pitching as many innings as I want. What do you do?
I think the thing is that I go to Matt and I take direction from Matt as any client. I work for them and whatever direction they give me. And I went to Matt and I went and met with him. And I said, look, I'm going to catch up with the doctors. And he goes, that's a good idea. I want to know. I want to know what's, this doctor saved my career. I trust him. I want to know what he thinks. And so the doctor gave him that advice, and I went and told him. And I said, Matt, people are going to ask me about your limits as we get around this thing, and I don't want to. I need to deliver an opinion, and he gave me the consent. Of course, is that you can tell him what my doctor said, and so. And frankly, I had this information for a good period of time since the middle of August, and I exchanged it to the team weeks ago, and I said, and then finally, our journalist came up to me last Sunday and said, "Hey, what are Dodgers say to me?" He said, "What are Matt Harvey's limits?" And I said, "Well, this is what his expert opinion of a surgeon is with 180."
You think that Matt's on board with this?
Well, again, I think the idea is, what do you do when your team comes to you, if that's the case, and I don't know, if the team comes to you and tells you to pitch? The first thing you're going to have to say is, upon what basis are you asking me to pitch? Do you have a medical opinion where you think it's safe for me to pitch and safe for me to work? Because what the doctors tell you is that his performance levels will not assuredly be the same as they were when he was rested and within the defines of the limits the doctors suggested. So that is an issue too for the team going forward, that his performance levels may not be the same as they were prior to reaching these limits. The second thing of it is,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
The second part, Michael, is that what assurances of safety is the team giving me by suggesting that I pitch further? What is the basis for that on their part? What is the reasoning why they think this is good for me and good for the team? And, is it a win-at-all-cost mentality where you're asking me to bear a risk that other teams don't ask players to do? Because I know in the national situation with Strasburg, they didn't let him make the decision. They didn't go to him with this. They said, we're following medical advice, and our ethic is that we're not going to defy expert medical opinion, and we're not pitching. The player was upset about it. It wouldn't happen.
You've sent this letter to the Mets at the end of August. You've made this public today with the John Heyman story. Here's another thing I want to ask you. What happens if Sandy Alderson said no agent and no doctor is going to tell me how to run my team? I'll pitch him when I want to pitch him. What do you do then?
I think that every general manager and every owner is not in a position to let anyone run their teams other than them. And They have to make that decision. And that is not news. I think the interesting aspect of this is the ethic of, do I defy expert medical opinion and put a player in a position of peril per the opinion of his surgeon? If you have a child and the child says, I want to go play in the playground, and the doctor says, no, you suffered a concussion, you can't go play, and the teacher says you can go play, the question is, what information what's the basis for your decision making in directing that player, or in the instance of the child, to do that? And that's what's the issue here. The issue is the doctor's calling the team. And frankly, the Mets team doctor agreed with the surgeon that they should follow the surgeon's advice. He has told us that. So those are the things that are at hand here. So the idea is that I think any team can tell any player to play and go ahead. The question is, when they're doing that, what's the basis for doing it? Why would they do that, knowing that there is a medical opinion by the foremost surgeons in America that this would put the player in substantial risk?
But there was also an expert, Scott, the Los Angeles Dodgers team doctor, who recommended 165. So
yes, I've gone to great lengths to get the two best doctors I know,
But one of those experts were defied because he's already gone over 165. And what if you got another expert who said 200?
Well, I think when Dr. Elytras said that, he said his opinion was that he stay in the range of where he was prior to his limit, which was 178. But he just said conservatively, I like to see them under that. But would never exceed the limits of what he's pitched before, coming off Tommy John.